right, welcome to what I would now call a special episode of the Diplomats, because one of the original diplomats, Umble the Heap, is able to join us. He couldn't stay away. He got so jealous of Superstition coming in and doing a podcast on the season 5 Nexus finals at diplomacynexus.com that he had to come in. And of course, nobody knows strategy and tactics like Umble, so we're happy to have him. But even happier is that we can talk about our sponsor, diplomacybriefing.com. Umble, tell us about the briefing and tell us why you were dying to get in on the action for this podcast.
Well, I would say it was more pity than jealousy. After seeing how low you had to stoop to get a partner to go with you, and how many people down the list you had to go to like number 50, I said, well, maybe I can come in and help save this thing after that first podcast. So that was really more kind of where it came from, and it actually to be, I'll be doing it. We kind of talked about this. I'll be doing one a week, but obviously I'm kidding. Don did a good job. It was a good first podcast. So I'm just fulfilling my contractual obligations through the briefing to put in one episode a week on this finals. It looks like a great finals. Excited to be able to watch it and see what happens. And of course, the Diplomacy Briefing is a weekly email about the hobby. It tells everything that's coming up, tournaments for online and face-to-face, gives you a strategy article every week, and almost all the time it's an original one, so you're not going to find it anywhere else on the internet. And as well as other things that come out, variants, anything really that's big in the diplomacy hobby. And so it's free. You can go to diplomacybriefing.com, sign up. You can also do it through social media and be a part of it.
So you said it's going to be a great finals. Nothing will beat season 2 because naturally I was in it. I think maybe you might have been in it too in a couple of these finals. But I got to tell you, I am jealous. I wish I could be the game master of season 5 because I think the press and what we're going to see would be phenomenal. I can't wait to interview all these players later and read some of their press. I've got which power is playing which country, and of course Superstition and I went through kind of players and psychologically a little bit. Today we're going to focus on strategy, opening strategy, particularly in a 10-year final and particularly in the Nexus finals. But why don't we go through some of these players just for a little bit and tell me if you're as excited as I am. We've got Doc Binder as France's world champion who picked France. What do you think of Doc, and what do you think of that pick?
I don't know a lot about him except by reputation. He's a very accomplished diplomacy player in the face-to-face scene and has come on strong in the online as far as Nexus and done a phenomenal job. So he definitely has the longest reputation. Anybody that plays in the face-to-face is going to know his name. If you read stuff online, his name pops up. So I'm sure he's going to do a great job. France, of course, I don't think in any of the finals has ever been eliminated. If I'm thinking correctly, I think every single finals France has always made it to the end. So he's picking in a 10 game years, he's picking power that he has a good shot at, unless there's going to be a concerted team up, which we'll see. We'll see what happens.
If you got your pick of the powers under the Paris method and could pick, who would you pick?
Well, I probably would pick England since it seems like that's been consistently I've topped every board or soloed with England. I think for the last 2 years, every game I played since I got back into diplomacy. So I'd have to. I mean, I like all of them. I like France. I like Turkey. I like Germany. But those would probably be my top 4, I would say. But just because of the run of success and how comfortable I feel right now with England and whatever comes up, I'd probably just go with England, even though that's usually not the first one chosen.
And of course, next to him, next to Doc Binder in the West, were 2 European players who've been playing collectively less than a year. I'm assuming you don't know much about either of those.
No, I don't.
All right. And the big reveal with Ewok being actually the one and only Village Idiot.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
and he and a little bit of me have history together. He's an amazing player. Tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I definitely say as far as like in diplomacy, he's probably one of the I definitely one of my closest friends in the diplomacy world, at least online. We've talked through lots and lots. His first Nexus game um, was with me under a pseudonym, and after I cleaned his clock, he realized it couldn't have been just a no-name player. So he had figured out who I was, and there's something about getting in the trenches with someone and really fighting it out that it can build a mutual respect. And so he that's the one. It's really the only thing I've ever got over him. We haven't played a lot of games together, but it's kind of what I hang my hat on in our discussions. But he's
So,
a very
are you saying you're responsible for his success?
Oh no, 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 not at all. I
You're not being humble tonight.
well, his success has been long and sustained. If he's in a tournament, he is, you're whatever the odds, you take it that he's going to make it into the final because his play is consistent. He is consistently good, and
What
so
accounts for that?
what accounts
Why?
for it? Um, Well, I've it's hard for me to kind of describe really, his style. It's
Me too, which is why I asked that question.
yeah, it's obviously effective because he gets to the finals, and he's always, he always is giving himself an opportunity to win. He's always got a shot at it as you go. I mean, like he was just in the ODC finals too, and he made that over on WebDip. So it's hard because I think his negotiation style is generally speaking, um, he's trying to get the advantage. He's working that out, but I think he lets the game come to him. That's probably what I would say. He allows the game to come to him before he makes his first move, and I think that's really helpful in this game. And he makes
You're describing patience.
Yeah, well, I think he's very patient, especially on that first move. And so that's really important in this game when so many people are trying to make their own luck. That sometimes the best thing you can do is let people come to you. And so, he's able to kind of work things to his advantage and then kind of pick the deal that seems the best for him. And so I would say that's probably it. He's not really I don't know. I mean, I never considered him a charmer. That's probably more
He's not a
your
charmer. Yeah, I'm a
yeah,
charmer.
that's more your
But
bag of tricks.
that's my only trick. It's the only trick in my bag. And when it doesn't work, it's spectacularly bad.
Well, the
But
problem is you get everybody to like you, and so then invariably, when you work so hard for everybody to like you on the board, and they do like you, and then invariably when the stab comes, especially when you're playing with better players, they just really want to stick it to you. So,
yeah, I know. I've learned that my online game's gone in the toilet. Uh, my charming's working virtual face to face. I think because people don't spend that much time with me. We only have a few minutes together before before they figure it out. Uh, but yeah, no, I think he's a fantastic player.
well,
But
I think another thing about him too, and so this is something that I think that I've always respected about him. This is not only is he patient and he makes the right move because he can see what are the threats long term that are going to happen, and he's good at evaluating, having a good board read into the future. He can also then use that information to influence people and turn people another way or build coalitions against board leaders. And so his tactics are good and his long-term strategy is good, and he's a creative player, and that's really helpful in elite play to be able to come up with different ideas on how to organize the board against people. So all of those things make him a very, very good player. Now my personal opinion, he's picked Russia. I'm not exactly sure that that's going to be the best power for him in this particular game, but we'll see.
well, he had options. Uh,
Hmm.
and by the way, did you listen to Superstition? I don't know if you did or didn't, but his point was, he goes, how aggressive Superstition wants to go and go early in the finals. But of course, he hasn't had a lot of success in the finals with that strategy, whereas Vi, has played well in a number of games, and I think that patience thing point you made is really good. Before we talk about Conk, EVR, have you dealt with him much?
No, no, but he won the gunboat finals. So it's as I recall, because he wrote something for
Uh,
the.
yes, and he's involved with the Nexus speedboat community. I've played many speedboat games with him, and he is very good tactically.
Good.
So I think that
Is he Austria?
that's the interesting part. Yes, he's Austria,
Okay. I
and
can't see anything, so I can't see anything on the screen right now.
yeah, okay, yeah, no. It's just a list of the players and their countries, and then
Yeah.
uh,
So
Poser Tom as Italy's face-to-face player. Have you dealt much with him?
no, I just remember he was in the finals last year, wasn't he? And he I think it was Germany, as I recall, and I felt like he wasn't very aggressive. Is it last year or 2 years ago? I'm sorry, or 2 seasons ago. It was either he was in the final as Germany, and I can't remember if it was season 3 or season 4. Everything bleeds together right now. And he was Germany, and as I recall, he wasn't very decisive, and so I felt like that really hurt his game. He had a few chances to stab and get back into the game, and he didn't, and lost the game because of it. So
Well, yeah, that's difficult as Italy, which is,
sure.
if you're indecisive. And now we talk about, in my mind, the people's choice, the people's favorite, the rooting interest. At least for me, maybe not for you. Conk uh, has to be said, probably the best preliminary round player of the Nexus tournament,
This
without a
season.
lot of good finals results.
Oh, okay, sure. Yes, that's true because he's been eliminated in both of them. So yeah, if you add that on there, yeah, he's obviously a good player. I mean, he's had good success face to face too. He made it to the finals at WDC 2018, got eliminated. I think it's Germany, as I recall that he said. Um, and he's obviously got the whole package to be able to win this thing. But a final board, you do have to bring a different style and skill set, how you go about playing it, than you can with the lower tournament games, because there's a lot of people that you can pretty much almost steamroll them in the lower games, and they'll hitch their star to your wagon, and then you stab them for the win. So you can't really pull that off in a finals game. So he's got the ability to do it. There's no doubt about it. And with Turkey, I, he's got a really great opportunity to be able to win the whole thing if he doesn't get jumped at the beginning.
Of course, he's right next to Village Idiot, and I don't know if you can see the screen now or not, but I put up half of this post in the last podcast that I did with Superstition. But are you able to see the screen? If not, just let me know.
I can't, but I mean, we're just talking about the
Sure.
boards.
So
I don't.
yeah. So I'm going to read you a quote from Village Idiot, our pop psychologist. A part of Conk's secret sauce is being
Wait, wait,
able to.
wait. You have to read the whole paragraph though if you're going to
I'm
read
going
that.
to. I'm going
Okay,
to.
all right, good,
Is
good,
being
good.
able to connect with players, give them a fun experience, while behind his back he's performing sleight of hand that gets him a step towards a win. Umble is too obsessed with winning to be influenced by camaraderie and instinctively mistrusts any attempts at such, which makes him an unideal candidate for Conk's play style. On the flip side, Umble's a puppeteer who is capable of controlling the board through misinformation, strong intuition, side alliances stacked upon side alliances, and power of persuasion to get people to do things without completely thinking them through. These are all tricks Conk is able to see through, and with his strong relationships across the board, he's able to wade through misinformation capably well. This makes him an unideal partner for Umble. I personally think it would be impossible for you two to have a game-long alliance. tell me, is our pop psychologist VI, who sees me better than my parents, was he right with you too?
Well, first of all, that's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said about me, and I, uh, I so appreciate that. Now on Conk, now like I said, this may just perhaps be me, being suspicious of anyone that tries the whole glad hand approach. But like, I never found him personally that engaging and having a fun game. In fact, I found him incredibly frustrating because he wouldn't ever do anything. Like, it was impossible to make any kind of deals. And oftentimes, people can go back and read if they want the whole season 2 AARs, but I felt like I more than met him halfway. But the issue there was he was Italy, I was Turkey in our season 2 finals. So that's always difficult to ever do anything. But I found him to be an incredibly frustrating person to negotiate. But eventually, I should tell you this. Let me mention this. I'm not trying to stack the deck or anything against Khan, because I like him and he's a really good player. But this brings up a great story that I love to tell. So I am, he's Italy, I'm Turkey. I've been trying to get Russia, for us to work together. This is the very beginning of the game. And in that season 2 finals, on my side of the board, Austria was doing it, Italy was doing it. They were forwarding all kinds of press. And this shows you the extent of like how invested Conk can be. Russia forwarded me what Italy had forwarded to him, saying I said, and he had taken what I had sent to him, and then interspersed all this extra text into the super long letter. Like it had some sentences for me. He didn't just create this whole thing out of whole cloth. Like, he literally forwarded probably a 500-600 word letter, and he put some of my stuff in there, but then he added in all this other junk that had nothing to do with it. And I'll just tell you, like, when I find out somebody forwards something, that's not going to work out good for them long term, because I go to every single person to say, this is what this guy's doing. And to his credit, after I called him out on that, we had a completely honest relationship. We just never were able to work together. So
go ahead.
That's a long answer to, I don't know, because the only game I've ever played with Conk, he was Italy and I was Turkey, and that's a hard alliance to have fun with, at the end of the day, especially when you're both trying to break out.
I've had fun with him lots of times, but I was shocked, and if Conk's listening to this, and if the other players are listening to this, shocked that Conk broke the diplomatic fourth wall today and posted the following on Nexus while the game is in negotiation. I'm getting the impression that while I'm not the same power, we may get to see some continuity in my results, meaning he's playing his current situation down publicly. A, what do you think about that? And B, do you think this will help or hurt him in the actual game?
Well, Turkey's a tough. He's in a tough situation, right? Because I don't think a juggernaut. I just don't think Russia is going to do a juggernaut, just because he's going to be, to win this game, you've got 10 game years. And to win this, you really only need 10 centers. And if you let Turkey out of the box a little bit, especially with the type of player that Conk is, that I don't think Russia is going to allow Turkey to get any kind of foothold. So it's possible I'm wrong, but both of these players are very much, they're not going to get a disadvantage. So I mean, Village Idiot's the same way. He's not going to make a deal that gets him a real disadvantage. It might look like it, but it's not. So I don't think he wants Turkey to get out. Now, the only thing that can bring those two together would be Austria-Italy alliance that both move on them. But I think that's going to be difficult. And by the way, let me just make that point then. That's why I think the final should have stayed anonymous, because one of the great things about online is that you can come into a new game and it be anonymous, and you can, play in completely different way. You can do, different types of tells. You can, try a different style. but you can't do that if everybody knows who you are. And so I think that makes the game overall less fun, especially for your better players, because it's those, it's the new guys that are not going to be focused on as much. So I think it would have been better to do anonymous, and because you at least get a few years where people aren't sure who you are. And I think that would have been good. But for Conk, I think it's going to be difficult. Personally, I would open to Armenia in this particular case. With Village Idiot up there, I would open to Armenia just to give yourself a little better defense. I don't normally like doing that, but I think in this situation, I would be throwing an army up into Armenia.
And we should be telling our listeners, we're not posting this until after the spring '01 moves have occurred.
Right.
So nobody will be influenced by what Umble or I think. I have the map up, but it's just the regular spring 1900 map for people. And I think it was so popular last year, one of our most watched videos, for us to just quickly hit each country, the opening strategies that you like, but maybe put a twist on it, the opening strategies you like given what you know of the players in this situation. And since we've just focused a little bit of time on the East, why don't we move to the West? And I'll just call them the two European players and Doc Binder with maybe Poser Tom Italy if you count them as a potential Western power. Let's go to France. A great defensive position. 10 years. I know what you like to do as France, but tell me what you like to do, and tell me if you might change it up if you think there might be a potential EG.
Yeah. So normally, I like to just support into Burgundy and lock that down so there's not a quick dash. Especially in online, an early EG is much more common than face to face. So because you have more time to coordinate and build relationships, whereas in face to face, you have 15, 20 minutes and your first move's happening. So people play a little more cautiously usually. But in online, you've got time to develop a plan. So I would probably support right into Burgundy. I would let Germany know that. But in this particular case, with it being Doc, he's got to be thinking about targeting things too, because other people are going to be trying to do that, and he's the number one ranked player in the Nexus tournament. So, we saw Pez use this to a pretty good advantage. If I was him, I'd probably be trying to get a Western triple going just to give me some breathing room to get my centers. And, pick one of them, either England or Germany, to kind of like negotiate more towards them. So you're kind of throwing, kind of like what Pez did, where he tried to get Germany extra centers and all of those things to bring him to his side. I think that'd probably be a pretty good strategy as France. So maybe you don't, you don't support in, or you do something slower. I don't know, but that's what, in my opinion, I think that's probably the best direction to go out of the gate. Get a Western triple, but for me personally, I mean, you don't go long term with that. You're going to stab one of them, but just get them. Don't get an EG.
And what do you like to do with Belgium in this situation in the fall?
Well, if I'm offered it, I'll take it. But if I get three centers, I only ever build two. I always wave a build if I'm at six. But no, I would take it. But if at the end of the day, for me at least, as France, the ultimate goal for Belgium is to use it to get an ally. So the center is not the most important. So if you can make both England and Germany both want it and both go for it, and then you choose the one you want to go with, that's even better. So really, Belgium is great, not so much on getting it, I would say, but in getting an ally. And so in a lot of ways, you can be the one that decides who gets it. And so, being able to slightly get England and Germany to kind of fight for it, and then you get to choose, is a great position to be in if you can make it happen.
I wonder if we'll see a channel move.
I probably wouldn't, but that all depends if you think that England's going to be really aggressive. And it all depends. If EG decide they want to really work together, I don't know if they've played a game together before, those two players, but if they decide they want to go in and just, attack France. Here's the one issue. It's really difficult to kill France fast unless you have Italian help, especially with somebody like Doc. So that's somebody they're going to have to try to rope in at some point to get Italy on board. So you may see that. You may see Italy, Germany, and England all decide, hey, we're going to take France out. My guess is if a Western triple doesn't happen, there's probably going to be England, Germany, and Italy all going to take stuff off France.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. Either one of those options. Uh, One thing I learned interviewing the finalists last year was there were two Europeans in the West with last year as well with Pez and Babo. They disclaimed that they were working together and said it meant nothing that they were both from Europe, but they are on the same time zone, and they both are relatively inexperienced compared to Doc. So if you're England and maybe Germany, what are you thinking their optimal move set is if they're in that situation? I know you're not used to being in the inexperienced player position, but what kinds of things would you be thinking about if you were them?
Well, because Doc comes from a face-to-face scene, I think it's probably pretty likely he doesn't go to Burgundy. I would, because that is not, unless there's an agreed upon bounce. And I don't know how he plays, but just generally going to Burgundy is really not done. So if you know that, and you're going to go all in, put Munich into Burgundy, go for it. And I would say if I was in England or Germany's shoes and I felt like I had the competence to be able to take down France quick, then you go all in. It's now if I'm England, I probably wouldn't do it. I would probably wait till 1902, because if Russia moves north, you you move on France and he bounces you in the channel or something, you're going to get like you face the possibility of getting no builds. So I would probably still open north as England and be kind of safe and not go to the channel right away. But that's more my reservation with that as England. But I would say if I was Germany, I'd throw an army into Burgundy if I thought I could get that. If I was going to be going with England, I would probably just put pressure right from the get go, especially with him being the number one player. Why not?
Okay, so now let's move to Italy. Do you think it likely? I mean, those two, Italy, of course, I'm sure will know Doc Binder and have played. So there may be some diplomatic effort on behalf of Doc not to get Italy to move Venice to Piedmont. But if you're Italy and you've got a great player west and you've got great players east, what's your optimal strategy? I don't think Italy's done well in any of the Nexus finals. I don't
The first
remember
one,
season one.
yes, one. Season one, he would have won it actually if he hadn't spiked the football so early and everybody didn't want him to win. So he would have won it actually. But that was more Italy being in a good spot was good play from him, but also terrible play from Russia, who was Babu, and that was a combination of two. And I came up short in that tournament, so there's probably a little hard feelings there. But
So you play an aggressive Italy, though. If I'm not mistaken, you try to get into Trieste one way or the other, and sometimes even move further.
well, I have done it, but in a high stakes game like this, um, of course, to tell you the truth, because of what Russia and Turkey is good doing, and knowing the players and knowing exactly who they are, and probably not being as concerned about it being a juggernaut, you may just want to take some stuff from Austria. Just move right in spring 1901. And in most game situations, that'd be really risky to do. But with the two players you got, neither one of them are going to let the other get an advantage. So creating some chaos on the board could actually be helpful. So I think there's probably more of a payoff attacking Austria and less of a risk than normally. That doesn't mean that's the wisest thing. I think you've got a lot of options in this particular game because you've got the most well-known players are on the corners of the board. You got it in France and Turkey and Russia, and so the guys in you can really play a pretty good power broker. So I think Italy actually can probably have a pretty dynamic game. But the problem is it Poser Tom that's in Italy?
Yes.
Okay, so he cannot play passive and I don't think in this particular finals with only 10 game years he can play passive. He's going to have to go for it. And in the season 1 finals that Italy did well, it was a 1901 attack on Austria. And now I'm not saying attacking Austria is the plan. Going for France and demanding to get Marseille, it is a good one too, and letting the East be more of a slow play without anyone getting advantage until you're ready to come on. So I think there's something to be said about that. But yeah, I mean, in this particular situation, moving right into Trieste and just taking it, I would probably be much more likely to do that in this turn. But that doesn't mean it's the wisest move to make because sticking with Austria may be the better long-term play, but I don't know. I honestly would say I've moved away from playing Italy quite like that just because it's so risky. But in this particular game, with everything that's going on, I would probably actually, and Austria's not going to like it, but I would probably lean towards doing something like that, unless the France angle is another really good angle to consider. If EG asked you to come in and be on that, I would do that. I would make that move. So,
a lot of time that works out to Italy's benefit.
Right. Yeah. I would take that and say, this is what I want if we're going to do it. So
for Austria, I believe your preferred opening is the Southern Hedgehog to prevent Venice from sneaking into Trieste, if I'm not mistaken.
In finals games, because and that's the Southern Hedgehog is hated in face-to-face play, but it's a different environment and you're trying to do different things. But in these type of high-level games, you just see two things. You see a lot more Italians being opportunistic, and at the same time too being really aggressive going into Greece and all that, and a lot of times can negate your influence with Turkey. And so slow growing it as Austria isn't a bad thing. In fact, the season 2 that we were in where Austria won, he opened with the Southern Hedgehog. And I think there's some wisdom to that because but you need to tell Italy that this is what you're doing. But, we've also seen someone try it and then Italy gets so upset over it for some reason that he decided to attack them, which is, to me, ridiculous. But you have to let Italy know. I think that's probably the best. You're helping out a few things by doing that. And if, Austria is the great tactician that he is, maybe he'll do that. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with going for Greece if you know you can get it. And if you're doing an air alliance, if you know that that's together, if Italy and Russia's doing that, that's good. Here's the big issue, though. In a game like this, the natural mid-game is for Italy and Russia to split you up. Like, that's going to be the natural thing to happen. So you're going to have to choose one or the other to stab early, I think. Either Italy or Russia before they can piece you apart. But
let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it.
So, on DBN, which everybody should watch, DBN, and I'll try and put a card in there for those of you who don't follow it. Brandon Fogel and Brian Pavel always talk about the Windy City Weasel meta is to agree that Venice can go to Trieste, not for Aquila Panto, but so there can be a quick Ionian to Aegean move. So in other words, Italy essentially gets Trieste but sacrifices Tunis to get the jump on Turkey. What do you think about such a move set?
I mean, personally, for me, I wouldn't do that in a finals game. I mean, maybe in a house game where you're trying to have fun, But in a finals game, I I I mean, like if I'm Italy, I will take it and maybe take Tunis too instead. But I don't know. That's a little. That would probably be a little bit of a bridge too far for me if I was Austria in this particular game. I don't know. It comes down to how comfortable are you with Russia being a part of this. So we'll see.
So, uh, let's move to Russia and Turkey, and we can talk about them as one here. The thing I've been thinking about most of the day is you mentioned it earlier. Will Russia move north? I think the chances of that are very small, given that Doc's in France and Conk is a threat. You seem to think RT can't get going. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that's the case, then it seems more likely that Russia would go three to the south. What do you think?
Well, in an air alliance, you can, if you've got Austria and Italy doing some of the heavy lifting down there, you've got kind of an extra army to use. So throwing it north, especially if you know he's going to the channel, can be really good. And so Russia does not want the West to resolve quickly. He does not want that. And so especially if he senses an EG, putting some pressure on one of them could end up being a good thing. But of course, he definitely wants to get Sweden, so that's another aspect to think through with sending something north. Um, you've got to kind of play that out. So if you got an air alliance, though, you've got some options on things to do. And I, uh, I mean, opening north it's not a terrible. It's not in no way a terrible opening. I don't think Village Idiot will do it, but um, I, if I felt like Austria and Italy were with me, it wouldn't bother me that being an option. And you don't have to bounce them in Norway either. So you can just move it over into Sweden to put more play on the north, especially if you're going to work with France long term. So there's those options.
So you've played Turkey. You've been in a couple finals, and one of those you played Turkey uh, with an experienced Italy and a very inexperienced Russia and a fairly unpredictable Austria. How do you like to play Turkey? I know it's tough, the geography in the beginning, but if you're Conk, what kind of arguments are you making? Are you just trying to find a friend?
Yeah, you are. If I'm Conk, that that's where it kind of comes back to. Normally for me, I wouldn't open to Armenia most of the time, just just because I've always felt like I can get that army from Constantinople into Bulgaria, and the Bulgaria go and do something, either move it up towards Rum or move it down into Greece. So I've always been pretty successful in getting two builds as Turkey in that way. So I didn't have to open that aggressively against Russia, and I could leave some more of my options open. But in Armenia is a really good. It's good to open there to create diplomatic opportunities because Russia's not going to want that army there. So you can perhaps make a deal with him to convoy that somewhere. Um, there's you give yourself some different ways to put pressure and to slow down Russia's growth because getting Romania is going to become more iffy. So I normally wouldn't open to Armenia just because I want to keep my options open with Russia. I do think that usually what you'll see is that you know Turkey and Austria going together is
You
the more
like the AT.
I do, and and it all depends on the person playing Turkey. Like I'll do it as Austria depending on who's playing Turkey. If the person playing Turkey is a killer, then I'm probably not going to do it as Austria. But if I know that they're not that and they're a more slower moving player. They're not just, trying to stab you as soon as they can. I'm fine. I like doing it with Austria too. And I think there's ways you can put them, I think there's things you can put in place as Austria so that the alliance will work. A lot of people are always against it, and to me, that's just a lack of imagination and ability to diplomatically think about when to make your moves as Austria. But it does favor Turkey, and because you're behind them, so it's always going to favor Turkey a little bit. But in a lot of ways, as Austria, your big fear is what happens in the mid game when we're done with Turkey. And so, as Turkey, what Turkey's going to have to hope to do is he's going to have to hope that Italy attacks Austria quickly, or that Russia tries to steal something from him, because he needs that kind of unrest. And Austria wants Turkey to fight Russia. Turkey wants Austria to fight Russia. You want to get these people fighting so that you can pick an ally, and that's really going to be Konk's big. If he's going to win this game, is if he can get an ally. I feel like he probably has the best chance to win it. If he can't get an ally, it's going to be almost impossible for him to pull it out. But if he can just get one ally, even just get a foothold, I honestly think like that his chances of winning are going to go way up with how good of a player he is.
Conk, you need to phone a friend. Call your phone a friend right now, and find somebody for the people's choice here. Okay, knowing who everybody is, which power would you want to be right now?
What do you mean? If I could just drop myself in and want to have the best chance of winning?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So take over somebody's power?
Take over some. Umble gets to pick a power knowing who the other 6 are.
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I would say, oh man. I mean, like my first thought is sure, go ahead and do England, but then you've got Doc and Village Idiot either side of you. You'd have to. Well,
I'll tell you how I answer it. I say Austria.
Yeah.
The reason I answer Austria is I think everybody except perhaps Italy, for the reasons you said, wants to work with you, and for me, I like to be in that position.
Yeah, I would have to say, you know what? I think I'd like to be France. I think that I could work with those 3 around me, Italy, Germany, and England, and then I would want to be France. Yeah. I think that's the perfect position with the guys that are on the board, and on the other corners. I would want to be France in this particular situation. More so than I would, I think I could probably handle that diplomatically the easiest over all the others. Italy would be another really good choice, though. I think there's some real good possibilities of being able to sit back slightly with some of the bigger powers and hang out. Italy would probably be 1B. So France 1A, Italy 1B in this particular game.
Okay.
Russia's a good one too. So I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be Turkey, because I wouldn't want to be playing that game with Village Idiot and Russia. Not that I wouldn't enjoy it, but I don't think that would be as easy.
You heard me ask Superstition. He said Russia will win.
Yeah,
who will win?
Yeah, I disagree. I'm gonna say that I think I'm gonna go with Austria. I think he's gonna win the gunboat, and he's gonna win the Nexus finals. Because here's how I'm predicting how the game will go. I'm predicting that Turkey is going to get jumped by an air alliance. That Russia, though, France will be hobbled a little bit from Italy and Germany and England to a certain extent by the mid game, and Austria will have his opportunity there to pick off some centers from Russia. And I'm going to go with Austria. I'm going to say he's going to be the one. He's going to be able to kind of swing everything and get in there. He won the gunboat. He's made it into the finals, which you can't make it into the finals not being a great diplomat and just being a great tactical and strategic player. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with him. And it's hard, though. It could be anyone, but I really think I think people are going to move on Village Idiot in the mid game faster. I think he'll probably start off hot and then I think he's gonna get slowed down. We'll see.
We shall see. Umble will have you back on occasionally, once a week, as we said, to weigh in, correct the mistakes of my podcast partners and myself. It was a terrific and educational experience. Thank you for coming on. Thanks to Diplomacy Briefing. You can check this podcast and all our podcasts out at thediplomats.net. Umble, good night. Contestants, good luck.
Good night.